She lost everything in the war. The West was supposed to give her a new beginning. But when a silent, injured native girl was left behind after a raid, this teacher made a decision that changed both of their lives forever. What she didn't know was that the girl carried a story more painful and more powerful than anyone imagined. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty streets of Tucson, Arizona Territory. 1876. Sarah Thompson wiped her brow as she made her way to the small schoolhouse where she had taught for the past 3 years. At 32, Sarah had left behind her life in Boston, seeking purpose after losing her fiancé in the Civil War. The West offered her a fresh start, though she found herself perpetually an outsider. "Miss Thompson," Sheriff Davies called out, halting her progress. "We've got trouble. Apache raiding party hit the Miller homestead last night. Burned it to the ground." Sarah's stomach tightened. The Millers had 2 children who attended her school. "The children?" she asked, dreading the answer. "The boy didn't make it," the sheriff said grimly. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, too. Army's in pursuit of the war party now." He hesitated. "There's something else. They found a young Apache girl, maybe 8 or 9, hiding in the creek bed nearby. She's injured. Doc says she wasn't part of the raiding. Party probably abandoned by her own people. Nobody knows what to do with her." "Where is she now?" Sarah asked. "Doc Wilson's office. The Army wants to take her to the reservation once she's stable, but folks around here are mighty angry. Some are talking about—" Sarah understood the unspoken implication. "I'd like to see her," she said firmly. At the doctor's office, Sarah found a small figure huddled on a cot in the corner. The girl's dark eyes were wary, watching every movement like a cornered animal. A bandage wrapped around her left arm, and bruises marked her thin face. "She hasn't said a word," Dr. Wilson explained. "Doesn't appear to speak English. I've tried feeding her, but she won't take anything from me." Sarah approached slowly, kneeling at eye level with the child. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Sarah." The girl stared back, expressionless. "What will happen to her?" Sarah asked the doctor. "Army patrol returns tomorrow. They'll escort her to San Carlos Reservation." He lowered his voice. "If she makes it that far, town's on edge after what happened to the Millers." Sarah looked at the frightened child. In that moment, she made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I'll take her," she announced. "Have you lost your senses?" Dr. Wilson sputtered. "The town will never accept it. Your school board will—" "I'll manage the school board," Sarah interrupted. "She's a child, doctor." "Just a child." That evening, Sarah brought the girl to her small home on the edge of town. After preparing a simple meal, she tried again to communicate. "I'm Sarah," she said, pointing to herself. "Sarah." Then she gestured toward the girl. After a long silence, the girl whispered, "Nalin." "Nalin," Sarah repeated, her heart leaping. At this small victory, "It's nice to meet you, Nalin." Later, as Sarah was arranging bedding, Nalin spoke again, her voice barely audible. "Navajo," she tapped her chest. "Navajo?" Sarah asked, surprised. "You're Navajo, not Apache?" Nalin didn't respond further, but Sarah's mind raced. If the girl was Navajo, not Apache, how had she ended up here? The Navajo lands were far too. The north. As Sarah tucked a blanket around the exhausted child, she whispered, "You're safe now, I promise." But as darkness fell over the small house, Sarah wondered if that was a promise she could keep. Tomorrow would bring the town's judgment, and she knew many would oppose her decision. Yet looking at the sleeping child, Sarah felt more certain than ever that she had made the right choice. In the quiet of the night, Sarah wrote in her journal, "Today I became responsible for a child from a world entirely different from my own. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I know I couldn't do otherwise. There's a voice inside this child waiting to be heard, and somehow I must help her find it. Morning arrived with a pounding at Sarah's door. She had barely finished dressing when Sheriff Davies' voice called through the wood. "Miss Thompson, need a word with you." Sarah opened the door to find not only the sheriff, but also Reverend Harlow and Mr. Fleming, head of the school board. "Is it true?" Fleming demanded without preamble. "You've taken in one of them?" "I've taken in a child who needs care," Sarah replied calmly. "Her name is Nalin, and she's actually Navajo, not Apache." "Indian is Indian," Fleming spat. "The parents in this town won't stand for their children being taught by someone harboring a savage." Sarah straightened her spine. "Mr. Fleming, I've taught the children of this town faithfully for 3 years. My personal affairs are my own. Not when they affect the moral standing of our school," Reverend Harlow interjected. "Think of the example you're setting." "I'm setting an example of Christian charity," Sarah countered. "Isn't that what you preach each Sunday, Reverend?" The sheriff cleared his throat. "Army patrol returns this afternoon. They can take the girl to the reservation where she belongs." "She doesn't belong anywhere right now," Sarah said. "She's lost and alone. I'm asking for time to help her." "Time for what?" Fleming demanded. "To learn her story. To find out how a Navajo child ended up here, hundreds of miles from her people." A small figure appeared in the doorway behind Sarah. Nalin stood silently, watching the confrontation with wary eyes. "There she is," Fleming muttered. "Probably spying for her people right now." "She's a child," Sarah said firmly. "And she's staying with me until we learn more about her circumstances." "Then you're relieved of your teaching duties," Fleming announced, "effective immediately." The pronouncement struck Sarah like a physical blow. Teaching was her livelihood, her purpose. "You can't do that without a board vote," she managed. "Emergency meetings set for noon," Fleming replied smugly. "Don't expect much support, Miss Thompson." After they left, Sarah closed the door and leaned against it, momentarily overwhelmed. Nalin remained motionless in the hallway. "It's all right," Sarah said, forcing a smile. "We'll figure this out together." Throughout the morning, Sarah attempted to communicate with Nalin. She drew pictures, pantomimed, and used the few Navajo words she had learned from a missionary pamphlet. Progress was slow, but by midday, she had established that Nalin had been taken from her family some time ago. "Who took you?" Sarah asked, drawing figures on paper. Nalin took the pencil and drew several figures wearing what looked like military uniforms. "Soldiers?" Sarah asked, troubled. The girl nodded. When noon approached, Sarah faced a difficult decision. She needed to attend the school board meeting to defend her position, but couldn't leave Nalin alone. A knock at the door revealed an unexpected ally, Widow Jenkins, who lived next door. "Heard about your situation," the older woman said. "Not everyone in town agrees with Fleming. I'll sit with the child while you go to your meeting." "Thank you," Sarah said, genuinely surprised. "Her name is Nalin. She doesn't speak much English." "Don't worry about that," Mrs. Jenkins replied. "I raised 6 children. I know how to be with a child who needs comfort." The school board meeting was everything Sarah had feared. Fleming had rallied the conservative elements of the town against her. Only Mr. Davis, the shopkeeper, and Dr. Wilson spoke in her defense. "The vote is 4-2, Fleming announced. "With satisfaction. Miss Thompson is relieved of her duties until she relinquishes the Indian child to proper authorities." Sarah returned home defeated but not broken. She found Mrs. Jenkins teaching Nalin to knit, the two sitting companionably despite the language barrier. "How did it go?" Mrs. Jenkins asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. "As expected," Sarah replied. "I've lost my position." 4. "Now," Mrs. Jenkins said firmly. "But minds can change. Hearts too." That evening, after Mrs. Jenkins had gone, Sarah showed Nalin a map of the Arizona Territory. "Can you show me where your home is?" She asked gently. Nalin studied the map, then pointed to the northeastern section of the territory. That's Navajo land, Sarah confirmed. Can you tell me how you came to be here? With halting words and gestures, Nalin conveyed a tragic story. Soldiers had come to her village 2 winters ago. Many children had been taken to a school far away. Nalin had escaped, with several others, only to be captured by Apache raiders. She had been living with them until the recent raid, when she'd been left behind in the chaos. As Sarah pieced together the story, her resolve strengthened. This child had endured more in her short life than most adults could imagine. I will help you, Sarah promised, taking Nalin's small hand in hers. Somehow, I'll find a way to get you home. That night, as Nalin slept, Sarah wrote letters by lamplight to the Indian Agency, to Army headquarters, to the territorial governor. Someone must know about Navajo children being forcibly removed from their homes. Someone must care. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying dust through the streets of Tucson. Sarah paused in her writing, listening to the whispers of the desert night. For the first time in years, despite losing her position and facing the town's disapproval, she felt truly purposeful. This child needed her, and Sarah would not fail her. 2 weeks passed, bringing significant changes to Sarah and Nalin's lives. Sarah's savings were dwindling without her teaching income, but her determination remained unshaken. Each day, Nalin grew more communicative, learning English words while teaching Sarah fragments of Navajo. Sky, Sarah would say, pointing upward. Yeah, Nalin would respond, then carefully repeat, sky. Their routine was interrupted one morning by another knock at the door. Sarah opened it to find Captain James Forrester of the U.S. Army standing on her threshold, hat in hand. Miss Thompson? I'm here about your letters regarding the Navajo child. Sarah's heart raced. You've read them? Please come in. The captain entered, his gaze immediately finding Nalin, who had retreated to the corner of the room. I'm stationed at Fort Defiance, he explained. Your letters were forwarded to me because I've been investigating similar cases. Then, it's true? Sarah asked. Navajo children were taken from their families? Captain Forrester nodded grimly. In '74, there was an unauthorized removal of several Navajo children. They were supposed to be transported to a government school in Santa Fe, but some never arrived. The Army officially condemned the action, but the damage was done. Nalin was one of those children, Sarah said. She escaped from whoever took her, only to be captured by Apaches. That matches other accounts we've gathered, the captain confirmed. We've been trying to reunite these children with their families, but it's complicated. The Navajo Nation is wary of Army involvement, for good reason. Can you help her get home? Sarah asked. I can, he said. I'm heading back to Navajo territory. Next week, I could escort her. Sarah felt a conflicting surge of relief and loss. This was what she had hoped for, to help Nalin return to her people. Yet the thought of parting with the child brought unexpected pain. Her family, are they still there? Will they be looking for her? Most likely, the captain said. The Navajo have a strong sense of family. They don't give up on their children. Later, after Captain Forrester had departed with a promise to return in 5 days, Sarah attempted to explain to Nalin. You're going home, she said, pointing to the map, to your family. Nalin's expression was unreadable. You come? She asked. In her improving English, the question caught Sarah off guard. I don't know if I can. That night Sarah couldn't sleep. The thought of sending Nalin off with a stranger, even a well-intentioned one, troubled her. What if something went wrong? What if Nalin's family couldn't be found? By morning, Sarah had made her decision. She would accompany Nalin to Navajo land. She had nothing left in Tucson now, and perhaps this journey would give her the closure she needed. When she informed Captain Forrester of her decision during his next visit, he seemed unsurprised. It won't be an easy journey, Miss Thompson. 300 miles through rough country. I'm stronger than I look, Sarah replied. And Nalin trusts me. She need that trust when facing all these changes. The captain studied her for a moment. Very well. Be ready at dawn on Monday. Pack light. News of Sarah's intended departure spread quickly through Tucson. Some townspeople avoided her entirely, while others made a point to express their disapproval. Yet there were surprising allies too. Mrs. Jenkins brought food and practical advice for the journey. Dr. Wilson provided medical supplies and taught Sarah basic treatments for common trail ailments. Even Mr. Davis from the school board visited, awkwardly offering a small pouch of coins. The board was wrong, he admitted. Not all of us agree with Fleming. This is from a few of us who admire what you're doing. The most unexpected visitor came Sunday evening. Reverend Harlow appeared at her door, his usual stern expression softened. I've been reflecting on my actions, Miss Thompson, he said haltingly. The Good Samaritan didn't ask about tribe or nation before offering help. I failed to uphold the very principles I preach. Thank you for saying that, Reverend, Sarah replied, genuinely touched. The church has taken up a collection, he continued, offering an envelope. It's not much, but it might help you establish yourself somewhere new after your journey. As dawn broke on Monday, Sarah and Nalin waited on the porch with their meager belongings. Captain Forrester arrived with 3 horses and a pack. Mule. Last chance to change your mind, he said to Sarah. She looked down at Nalin, who stood close beside her, small hand clutching Sarah's skirt. The girl's eyes held trust and hope that hadn't been there 2 weeks earlier. I'm certain, Sarah, replied Dot as they rode out of town. Sarah looked back at the place that had been her home for 3 years. Despite the difficulties, she felt a strange lightness. For the first time since coming west, she wasn't running from the past but moving purposefully toward a future. However uncertain it might be, ahead lay the vast expanse of the Arizona Territory. Mountains, deserts, and dangers she could scarcely imagine. Yet beside her rode Nalin, sitting tall on her pony despite her small size, her face turned toward the northern horizon and home. Are you afraid? Sarah asked her as Tucson disappeared behind them. Nalin considered the question, then shook her head. Not with you, she said in careful English. The simple statement warmed Sarah more than the rising sun. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The journey north proved more arduous than Sarah had anticipated. They traveled through rugged terrain, crossing sun-baked plains and navigating narrow mountain passes. Captain Forrester set a demanding pace, pushing them to cover as much ground as possible each day. By the 4th day, Sarah's muscles ached from hours in the saddle, but she refused to complain. Nalin rode without protest, her small face growing more animated as they moved farther north. She began pointing out plants and animals, sharing their Navajo names. She said, indicating a prairie dog that scurried across their path. She's coming alive, Captain Forrester observed as they made camp that evening. Every mile brings her closer to who she really is. I've been wondering, Sarah said as she helped prepare their simple meal. What will happen when we reach Navajo land? How will we find her family? The Navajo are divided into clans, the captain explained. Once we reach the right area, Nalin can identify her clan, and they'll help locate her specific family. And then? Sarah asked, the question that had been haunting her for days. The captain studied her thoughtfully. Then you'll have a choice to make, Miss Thompson. That night, Sarah lay awake beneath the vast starry sky, contemplating what awaited them. She had left everything behind, her home, her career, the life she had built. Yet she felt no regret, only uncertainty about what came next. On the 7th day, they encountered a Navajo shepherd tending his flock in a high meadow. Captain Forrester approached carefully, raising his hand in greeting. After a brief conversation, with Nalin eagerly joining in, the shepherd agreed to guide them to the nearest settlement. What did he say? Sarah asked Nalin as they followed the shepherd along a narrow trail. He knows my clan, Nalin replied, excitement brightening her features. Says my mother's people are at summer camp near Big Mesa. 2 days later, they crested a hill to see a small encampment of Hogans nestled in a protected valley. Smoke rose from cooking fires, and children played among grazing sheep. Nalin gasped, then urged her pony forward with newfound urgency. Word of their arrival spread quickly. People emerged from Hogans, gathering as the travelers approached. An older woman pushed through the crowd, her weathered face transformed by disbelief and joy. "Nalin!" she cried, rushing forward. The girl practically fell from her horse into the woman's embrace. They clung to each other, both weeping, speaking rapidly in Navajo. Others gathered around them, touching Nalin as if to confirm she was real. Sarah watched from a distance, her heart full yet aching. This was what she had worked for, Nalin reunited with her people. The joy surrounding them was undeniable proof that she had done the right thing. Captain Forrester translated as an elder approached them. He says you've brought their lost daughter home. You've returned hope they thought was gone forever. That evening, the community held a celebration. Sarah sat by the fire, watching as Nalin moved among her people, belonging in a way that transcended language or time apart. The girl was transformed, animated in a manner Sarah had never witnessed. As the celebration continued, Nalin came to sit beside Sarah, taking her hand. "My grandmother says you have good heart," she said in her improving English. "She asks what you will do now." It was the question Sarah had been avoiding. "I don't know," she admitted. "I need to find a new place, perhaps a new school where I can teach." Nalin conferred with her grandmother in Navajo, their conversation intense. Finally, she turned back to Sarah. "Grandmother says you can stay," Nalin announced. "Our teacher left 2 moons ago. Children need to learn English, reading, numbers. You could teach here." Sarah was stunned. "Here, but I don't know your ways, your language." "I will help," Nalin said simply. "You helped me find my voice. Now I help you find yours here." Later, Captain Forrester found Sarah standing alone, gazing at the stars. "The elder approached me," he said. "They're serious about wanting a teacher. The government's been promising one for years, but none have stayed. They see you differently, someone who respected their child, their ways." "I'm not qualified to teach their children about their own culture," Sarah protested. "No," he agreed, "but you can teach what you know while learning from them. It wouldn't be easy, but then, you don't seem to choose easy paths, Miss Thompson." The following morning, Sarah woke early and walked to the edge of the encampment. The sun was just rising over the distant mesas, painting the landscape in gold and amber. This place was nothing like Boston or Tucson. It was wilder, more elemental. Nalin found her there, coming to stand quietly beside her. "Are you leaving today?" the girl asked. Sarah looked down at her, seeing not the frightened child from Tucson, but a young person firmly rooted in her identity and community. In just days, Nalin had reclaimed her heritage, her language, her belonging. Yet there was concern in her eyes as she awaited Sarah's answer. "What would you like me to do?" Sarah asked. "Stay," Nalin said without hesitation. "Teach, learn, belong." The simplicity of the invitation moved Sarah deeply. All her life, she had been searching for purpose, for a place where she truly mattered. Perhaps she had finally found it in this unexpected corner of the world. "I would need to learn so much," Sarah said thoughtfully. "I will teach you," Nalin promised, "as you taught me." Later that day, when Captain Forrester prepared to depart, Sarah approached him with her decision. "I'm staying," she announced. "At least for now," he nodded, unsurprised. "I thought you might. I'll inform the Indian agency you're serving as the settlement's teacher. It might even secure you a small stipend." "Thank you," Sarah said, "for everything." As she watched him ride away, Sarah felt a small hand slip into hers. Nalin stood beside her, a bridge between worlds. "Come," the girl said. "Grandmother wants to show you where school can be." Together, they walked toward the center of the settlement, where children played and elders sat in the shade. Sarah felt curious eyes upon her, but also sensed acceptance growing. This journey had begun with her offering shelter to a lost child. But now that child was leading her to a new home. That evening, Sarah wrote in her journal, "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter. I came west seeking purpose and found it in the most unexpected way. Nalin once needed my voice to speak for her. Now she speaks not only for herself, but also for me, guiding me into a world I never imagined entering. We have both found our voices, and together we will learn to use them in harmony."